Thank you all for attending my speech today, which is called Exterminating the External, Internal versus External Frame Backpacks. I would like you all to imagine with me for a moment that you're hiking on the snowy slopes of Mount Hood in Washington. I think it's in Washington. And as you're hiking up, it's just exhilarating. The clean, fresh air is filling your lungs. Each step is a little bit painful, but it also just feels incredible as you mount this mountain and slowly climb it. And the view is just stunning. It's really awesome. But then, as you're struggling your way up to the top of this beautiful mount, your backpack, an old, outdated, but faithful external frame pack, which has been giving you, a lot of trouble lately, and let's just say the chiropractor has gotten his money's worth out of it. As you're climbing up, it snags on a nice little branch that is just stretching out its finger to say hello to you. But instead of just swiping off your back, it grabs hold, and your forward momentum becomes backward momentum, and it sends you hurtling down Mount Hood. Embarrassed and dejected, you find yourself in the parking lot. So you get back in your car and you drive back. This is life with external frame backpacks. External frame packs, while they do have their place occasionally and can distribute heavier loads a little bit better on the back, are honestly a thing of the past. The new internal frames, which have been around for over 40 years now, have come such a long way that they really almost completely replace external frame packs. And of course, the basic premise of an external versus an internal frame pack is that in an internal frame, sort of like this one, the frame is going to be on the inside of the pack and not on the outside. In an external frame pack, the pack itself is kind of built around the frame, whereas in an internal frame pack, the frame is sort of embedded into the pack, and you can't really see the frame. Internal frames, they tend to hug your body tighter. They'll kind of fit to those contours of your back a lot better. Because the frame is in generally two separate pieces of solid aluminum, usually a lightweight material such as aluminum on the inside. And that allows it to squeeze your back tighter and in a more comfortable manner than external frames. Because external frames are so rigid and they're long and usually are splayed farther out from the body, it causes your back to kind of have to force to align with the backpack itself instead of the backpack aligning with your back, which is what a good backpack should do to help distribute load easier. Internals are also much better at streamlining. They're very streamlined packs. They don't catch on things. When you're hiking through thick brush and thick woods, it's really easy on an external frame, such as in our little story, for it to catch on a branch or something like that, because the frame usually comes out from your body a couple inches on each side. For that reason, it's super easy for it to catch on the edges and to throw you off your balance, and in our goofy story, throw you down the mountain or just knock you down, which is never a good thing. Internals, let's see. They're a lot less maintenance on internal frame backpacks. External frames, especially the older ones, the newer ones have kind of caught up a little bit, but external frames in general require more maintenance. They require you to be a little more careful with them because the frame isn't protected by a layer of ripstop or whatever type of material, the fabric material the manufacturers decided to surround the frame in. Because it doesn't have that material surrounding it, external frames, it's just a bare frame on the outside. They're kind of open to abuse. And that, again, goes kind of back to my point about how external frames catch on things easy. Well, they can also get damaged easy when they catch on things. So you just really want to be careful with that. And because of that, that's obviously a downside to external frames, because that means if they're easier to damage, then it means you got to just be more careful with them, and you got to maintain them. And especially older external frames that actually used tubular steel, those can actually be prone to rust and corrosion. Whereas internal frames, you see none of this. You will never even really need to remove the frame pieces, which are internal to the backpack. It's just unnecessary because they're made of aluminum and they almost never need any maintenance at all, which is really a huge positive for internal frames. Now, one place where internal frames have been said to be less effective than external frames is breathability. With an external frame, because the frame is outside of the pack and it's in a nice, usually square shape or rectangular shape on your back, it kind of forces you to lean back a little bit as you're hiking. And this is typically a little bit better for posture, and it also increases airflow to the back. This has been a huge positive for external frames and the stronghold of the externalist view of backpacking and their holding on rigidly to their dogma. However, honestly, it's such a small thing. The breathability of internal frames has come such a long way. This is such an old argument. When internal frames were first introduced, they were not comfortable at all. They were very sweaty. It was hard to keep that back area ventilated. However, there have been so many advances in backpacking technology nowadays that there's almost still no need for the external frame. The one true advantage of the external frame, the breathability, has kind of been erased by newer technologies. You would just be hard-pressed to find a backpacking company that didn't put some kind of airflow device or some kind of design which allowed for more airflow to the internal frame wearer's back than you would, say, 20, 30 years ago. So that really isn't, that one con that worked against the internal frame is kind of just not actually valid any longer. So that brings us to the conclusion. It is now your time to make your decision. Are you going to be rigid and stick with the ways of the past, or are you going to conform to the comfort of the future? Thank you.